continuously examine the local government code as to what needs to be amended. As you may well know, I'm sure you all know, the local government code was enacted in 1991. That makes it about 22 years old. And in that time, many things have changed. The demographics of the country have changed. The distribution of population has changed. Even the demographics in terms of economic niche have changed. And so we must also amend the Constitution, must amend the local government code so that to take into account those changes that the country has undergone. Today, we are essentially examining, there are many proposals to amend the local government code. And specifically, what we are going to talk about today is the ERA. Now, there are many proposals because simply it is well recognized by all, and especially those who work in local government. It is well recognized that local government always has a lack of funding. Especially in the last few years, there has been a tendency by the national government to increase the number of functions that the local government are expected to fulfill. But with those increased number of functions does not come any increased funding, does not come with any increased personnel, does not come with any increased training. So it seems unfair to expect the local government units to perform those functions without the technical and funding support that they will require. Now, as you well know, as all of us who work in the local government knows, the local government does not have a surplus. Kung ano man ang pondo ng local government, hindi pa tatapos yung taon, ubus na yan. At siguro, yung meron mapagsabi lang na may savings, yung mga Makati, yung mga Quezon City, yung mga super na mayaman ng mga LGU. But, like Makati, for example, their LGU comprises 6% only. 6% of their total revenue. How many LGUs can say that? Quezon City, I think, is even lower. So, but these are exceptions. The rule is, we in the local governments, everything we spend comes from local collections and the IRA. So that's why these proposals have been made, is because it is an attempt by our legislators to try and give some extra support to our local governments. So today, on the agenda, are several Senate bills. Notably, Senate Bill number 84. I don't know if the others have been, So I am told that you have this, you have it in the folders. Is Senate Bill number 84. This is Increasing Internal Revenue by Senator Jigoy. Senate Bill number 104, again, share of local government units. Senate Bill number 604, an act amending Section 25, government reallocation of the local internal revenue allotment. Senate Bill 2987, which is the bill that we will be focusing our discussion on today. It's Senate Bill number 2987. And the reason why it is that is because it is the most encompassing bill of the others. Because not only does it seek to increase the revenue share allotment of the local government, it also seeks to redefine what the local government code means when it says national collection. Because traditionally, in the last, since the enactment of the local government code, the interpretation of government, of the DBM, of the agencies of government, that 40% that what the IRA share goes to the local government is 40% of the BIR collections, only internal revenue. What this bill seeks to redefine is the tax base. The tax base that will say that we should include not only internal revenue, but also collections from the Bureau of Customs, also collections from VAT, also all the other collections, so in totality, the total collections of government. This is a significant change and will comprise a significant increase. If we succeed in redefining the tax base, the increase in local government, internal revenue allotment to local government, countrywide, nationwide, will amount to up to 90 plus, 92, estimate namin 92 to 94 billion, depending on the collections that year. And finally, we have Senate Bill number 2996.
The position paper of Letter 12 po. So the Local Government Code of 1991 or the Republic Act RA 7160 provides for the, as explained by Senator Bongbong Marcos, that 40% was allotted for the local government units which will be divided among the provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays. As cited in the explanatory note of Senate Bill number 104, delivery of services such as health, social welfare, and agriculture has been entrusted to the annual internal revenue allotment. But while the power and authority is devolved to the local level, limited funding for its operational costs has challenged the very agenda of devolutions. Thus, programs that directly benefit the people have been denied, hence the proposal to amend RA 7160.
Just one quick comment. The question that I asked you was about where in the sharing calculation that land be increased to 35%. These are all proposals. We are trying to examine which one is best. But I wanted to make a quick comment. Since land has been included in the formulation of the local government code, we all know all adjacent LGUs have boundary dispute. And the simple reason is that kung lumaki ang kanilang land area, ang mangyayari ay lalaki din yung kanilang share. Ngayon, kung minsan, yung boundary dispute kailangan ng political solution. So, ang ginagawa, binibigay kung ano yung hinihingi na extra na lupa, binibigay. Without an additional reduction from the other LGU. The effect has been that since the enactment of the local government code, according to the LNB, the land area of the Philippines has increased by 200 square kilometers. Hindi naman tayo nag-reclaim. Hindi naman putok yung vulkan na may bagong island. But suddenly, after 20 years, we find ourselves with an additional 200 square kilometers because of the political, shall we say, compromises that were made for these land disputes. So that's something that we have to think about. Because the reason that land is included is because kung malawak masyado yung LGU, you need more funds to be able to bring the services to the people. And that's why land is included. Population is included because the more people you have in the LGU, the more services you need to provide, and therefore the more funding it will require. So these are the issues that come up when we start to examine. In fact, because of the problem with land, there are proposals to remove land already from the calculation altogether. But I think that's a little bit radical in approach, but that just illustrates to us that there is a debate ongoing as to how to handle that particular situation.
Last year, we celebrated our JC's anniversary. So, the main partner namin is the LGU. We conducted feeding, libreng gupit, libreng chinelas in some barangays here in Cotabato. Yung mga binigay namin usually sponsored by or the members mismo yung nagbibigay. Hindi ho kami bibigay ng revenues or taxes kasi kung meron man nagkakanap. So here, sa Cotabato chapter, usually, yun nga yung ginagawa namin. Nagtatap kami sa mga LGUs, officials, and then we, the members, provides the funds for the certain project. So,
Again, the debate or the discussion about land being included, meron ding sinasabi na nais din natin, we want the local governments to be less dependent on national government. In fact, when we look at the health or the progress made by an LGU, tinitingnan natin is the percentage of total the percentage of total collections or total revenue. I beg your pardon. What is the percentage of total revenue? What is IRA? I mentioned earlier, Makati is like 6%. If you are running at about 50-60%, maganda-ganda na yun, you're doing better. But from your experience working with local governments, how do we resolve that issue? That we want to provide assistance, but at the same time, we always have in the back of our minds the desire to make the local government unit less dependent on the national.
Good morning, Senator. Good morning, Mayor. Kami naman po sa Bangsamoro Institute for Good Governance and Electoral Reforms, in behalf of them, we are very in affirmative side sa inyo. We are in support of these Senate bills. Particularly, sir, yung sa Senate Bill number 2987, which reads that as an act increasing the share of local government units from 40% of the national internal revenue taxes to 50% share in all national taxes with the inclusions of different sources. Which means, sir, na mas malaki ngayon yung makukuha ng mga local government units, which is not less than 10% of the current era of every barangay. Now, what we want to, sir, we just want to clarify if is there any express stipulation whether what certain percentage goes to infrastructure and what percentage goes to soft projects like that of medical or education?
There is no mention of that. The assumption is that we will follow the formula that we're using now, where you have a development fund. And in the development fund, the local executive is allowed to decide how much they will put in health, how much they will put in infra. Nasa sa local executive yun. So we more or less keep the same. There have been, over the past few years, slowly guidance coming from NENA, DIL. So there is guidance. In the local government, there is not written there. But in the years that the local government since it has been enacted, there have been circulars, memorandums that have been given to the local government officials that say that we will divide 45 to 55. But within the 45, within the 55, especially social services, the local government can also decide. Now, this does not stop the local government from, I will use my own example. When I was governor of Ilocos Norte, 1/3 of my budget was healthcare. 1/3 of my entire budget. Ang budget namin was about 600 million. 200 million went to healthcare, which is beyond any guidance. And the reason I had was the hospitals were in very bad condition. The mortality rate is very, very high. We were not taking care of all the basic services like ano ba naman sa atin, yung mga simple lang naman is usually pregnancy, lower GI, upper respiratory, parang magsalita na we did this so much. But in the end, we were able to reduce the 1/3 expenditure to almost zero because of PhilHealth. Ang ginawa namin is that we gave insurance to everybody. Hindi na kami namili na indigent, lahat. So, if the PhilHealth covered 75% of our population, the rest rest was covered by SSS, by the military. So essentially, almost 100% sa Ilocos Norte has healthcare. So the initiative still is given. The guidance that is being given as to what percentages to be spent does not tie down the local government official.
Guidelines po niyan is coming from the DILG with regards to the disbursement.
Well, the reason given why we allow the local government executive to make those judgments is simply the reasoning that all local government units are different. Some need more infra, some less. Some need more health, some less, etc., etc. So, I understand what you're saying, but we have to balance that. We have to remember that not no LGUs are the same.
Of the current era of every barangay ang madadagdag. Kasi from 40 to 50%. And given na may iba pang sources aside from the IR. So, may we suggest, sir, na or kung wala pa ba tayong existing yung mga scholarships of from every barangay, which ang funding is galing sa sources, galing sa allotment ng barangay.
Napaisip ko kami, Ms. Mohammed, and we are now trying to look at the details already. What happened this year, as an example, the mayor reminds me, because the collections in 2009 were very low compared to the previous years. On average, our local government's era increased more or less 8 to average 10% every year. Pero in 2012, bumagsak. Because 2009, that is when the financial crisis started. So our collections really went down. And as you know, ERA is based on collections of 3 years previous. To alleviate that, we were able to get additional funding from the national government to create the LGSF, Local Government Support Fund. The Local Government Support Fund was put there to help in 2 areas. One, because of the drop in the ERA. Secondly, because of to help also the 4th, 5th, 6th class municipalities, because they're the ones that are having a hard time. So, if that is the case, then but in the IRR of the LGSF, oh my God, all of this, the IRR of the LGSF requires that the local government acquire or is accredited with the so-called seal of good housekeeping. I'm sure narinig na ninyo yan. The seal of good housekeeping before those extra benefits are given. I do not know if that will extend to 2013 because our era in 2013 is going to increase.
Ako na ito. Maganda din sana kung ma-increasean, madagdagan. Pero ang tanong ko po sa inyo, Senator, kasi ang propose is itaas yung ERA. Sa ERA na yan, pupunta po yan, siyempre madadagdagan ng ERA ng mga barangay. Yun po maganda doon. Kung tataas yan, tataas din ang ERA ng mga barangay. Ngayon kasi naging SK Federation ako sa unang halal ng SK, naging SK President po ako ng munisipyo. Wala din naman. Pero sa pagiging SK ko, ang makukuha lang namin doon sa ERA, sa barangay is 10%. Sa 10% po yan, ano po ang magagawa ng 10% na share ng SK doon sa...
Halimbawa, Mr. Fred, para maintindihan ng mga iba, how much in terms of pesos ang 10% ng SK ka? I will ask you a question that is not entirely related, but it is a question that is also before the committee as to the organization of the SK.
Magandang umaga sa inyong sinunod with our good mayor, Dr. Jenny, and to all the resource person. the participant of this Senate Oversight Committee meeting. So, unang-una, I would like to clear na itong CSO namin, the People's Coalition for Reform and Transformation, ay gumagalaw nito at ang pangunahing kanyang ginagawa ay yung People's Empowerment, then yung good governance at saka electoral reform. So dito kami umiikot ngayon, which is napakarami namin nakakausap, especially we are now engaged in big partnership with the National Poverty Commission in NAPSI. Mag-increase naman yung kanilang mga salary, yung kanilang mga at least maiiwasan natin kasi kapag napakaliit yung salary mo, minsan malulunod ka dun sa mga corruption, minsan sa red tape, tinatanggap mo yung business because wala ka na kasi pagkikitaan. Ngayon, kung medyo pa paangat mo yung mga salary ng mga local government company natin, siguro matatakot din sila na ito sinusilver tayo ng nasa level. Tapos hindi na kailangan siguro tumanggap tayo. I-stop na yung mga red tape na ginagawa. So this time, baka pwede natin i-maximize. Yun ang aming recommend. Pwede natin i-maximize yung percentage ng services.
Sa percentage.
Shall we say we have 60%? From 45, it will go up to 60%.
Depending on the classification of the LGU, you are allowed personal services between 45 to 55%. Ang katotohanan niya, karamihan ng LGU lampas sa 55%. Very, very few ang nakakapag-maintain ng 55%. The reason binagyan ng limitation is that political appointee ang ilalagay dyan na 15-30. Magkakagay kung sino yung mga kasamahan ng yung, halimbawa, mayor, nanan. Tatanggalin niya lahat ng contract. Tatanggalin niya lahat ng mga yung mga kasma. Papalitan niya ng tao niya. Yan, di na nagtatrabaho yan. 13-30 na lang yan. So, sige na. That is the danger that we are trying to avoid. Because it has been shown, pag pinabayaan, kung minsan yung PE, yung PS, umakakit ng 80%. Ibig sabihin, wala na natitira pang project. Wala na natitira pang yung nangyayari na lang, sinisweldohan na lang yung kung minsan, basta yung mga staff na lang nung executive, yung private army, diba? Diyan yung nagagamit. So yun ang danger na mas taas tayo, taas ng PS. Kaya kailangan din natin tignan kung bakit tinagyan ng limitation from 45 to 55. Depending on first class pa 45, kung third and lower hanggang 55. Yun ang guidance na binibigay ng DBM.
Yes, and what I am looking at Senator is yung mga regular employees natin na was na ano ba yun, nasa civil service sila, yun dapat ang i-increase yung kanilang mga salaries.
Pero ang problema kasi yan, sinusunod tayo sa pay grade ng civil service. Very clear na department head, is a certain pay grade, casual service, lahat yan, all of those who are civil service, who are civil servants, fall within the salary structure na binibigay ng civil service. So kung magtataas ka ng kahit ng local government employees, kailangan mo rin palitan yung lahat ng government employees, pati national, so papalitan mo lahat ng yung pay structure. So, ibig sabihin na yung lalampas tayo sa 45 to 55%.
Position to the mentioned Senate bills, but more particularly on Senate Bill 2997, we are in support for the increase. Actually, our advocacy for this is not just 50%, but say 60 to 70. No, but then you're still glad that Senator Coco Pimentel has sponsored this, increasing the ERA from 40 to 50. And itong 50% na to na pagtaas po ng ERA po natin, sana po mapupunta rin po sa magandang servisyo ng gobyerno natin to the constituents, no, more importantly on the delivery of basic services. Because we know the fact that we have a lot of problems in terms of health, in support the problems ng mga juvenile youth natin sa kahirapan. No? And with the increase of the era, maybe we have makapag-contribute din po tayo para pumatin yung Millennium Development Goals ng national government. Dahil nga po yung budget po nila sa ere talagang aaminin naman natin, nagagamit na po sa, no? Hindi naman po nila lahat, no? Lalo na po dito sa ARMM na nagagamit na sa mga personal, no? Na pupunti na lang po yung napupunta sa mga basic delivery, no? Basic services. Kaya napupunta po yung responsibilidad sa non-government organizations, sa mga international agencies like sa United Nations. And then with the increase with the era po natin, wala na po masasabi yung LGU officials natin, hindi na po nila gagampanan yung responsibilidad nila.
So, thank you, Mr. Catalina, for, as usual, your input. Engineer Aton.
So, kasi ang organization namin, may mga partners kami na local government units. Minsan may IRA, minsan wala. Dahil sa province of Maguindanao, we have 8 municipalities do not have internal revenue allotment. So dahil sa nakikita namin, although they are elected by the people, na wala silang IRA, kumikilos kahit papaano. Sana naman mabigyan ng pagkakataon na may makita nila. Yung mga walang IRA, especially. So those who are, yung may IRA naman, alam din namin na naghihirap din sila because of hindi magkakasya ang IRA nila. Minsan kasi dito sa ARM, ay may mga pabagong sitwasyon, which is hindi natin ma-predict na ang IRA ay minsan doon na po-focus. Kaya ang stand ng Alliance of Bangsamoro, we support the Senate bill for the increase of IRA. Thank you.
The new LGU will be responsible for giving the IRA. So if you create in the Sangguniang level, if you create a LGU, barangay municipality, kayo din ang maghahanap ng IRA niya. Kaya ngayon, ang daming pupunta sa akin sa Senado, yung na-create na barangay, na hindi, pero sa inyo lang ako nakakita ng municipality, but it's the same situation.